just got these Cayin HA300B Mark IIs in. Haven't actually heard these before, but I heard so many good things, and you know, 300B amps are some of my favorite amps. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit of an unboxing and first impressions video, and they'll do a little more detailed analysis of the amp later on. All right, so pretty easy unboxing there. Everything's pretty heavy, but a couple pieces of nicely formed foam there that got in. Comes with a pretty hefty power cable going from the power supply all the way over to the amp here. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the foam out of there. It looks like the tubes come pre-installed, so won't have to do any work there. I'm not gonna swap the tubes for now, probably go ahead and do that later. So I just plugged it in and it just immediately went on. I think the power switch was probably already on the power adapter, but you can see the tubes are glowing and everything is lit up now. Pretty cool blinking light in the volume knob. I assume when that goes solid that we'll have a ready to use amp, as it probably has a little bit of a warm-up period. DU meters have a nice bright light back there. First thoughts before I listen are, you know, 300B amps and tube amps in general, especially with a lot of power like 300Bs, can be notoriously a little bit noisy. So I'm just excited to see how the noise turns out in this. All right, so it looks like the light is solid. I'm gonna go ahead and have a listen, and I'll be back in a minute. So a few quick first impressions of the Cayin here. Just gave it a quick listen with the atriums and then the Susvaras. And yeah, it easily powers each. The Susvaras obviously need the high gain or higher gain than the atriums, and just put it on the low impedance out. And then you have medium and high impedance as well. Susvara's on low impedance for, I don't know, I was probably listening to 90, 94 dB, somewhere up there, a little bit over noon. So, you know, just plenty of power. I don't think I'll ever see myself with any headphone going, you know, past 2 o'clock on this thing. Definitely found the XLR input is, you know, obviously from a balanced source, is ever so slightly quieter. The only time I really heard any noise was on the RCA input. If I jacked the volume all the way up past 3 o'clock, but this amp has enough power and gain. I mean, with the atriums, I'm never really getting above 10 o'clock on anything, and I listen at a medium loud volume for short periods of time. So overall, it's a, you know, has that 300B classic dark background kind of high fidelity sound to it, while remaining punchy, lush, and, you know, plenty of extension in the high frequencies. So yeah, more to come. Gonna get this amp burned in for a while, though. It's only been on for about an hour, and I'll try some other tubes and get it loose, get it warmed up, get the tubes burned in a little bit, get the filaments hot, and yeah, let's continue on a little later. So I've got some more time on the Cayin HA300 Mark II here. Listening mostly through the Susvara and the atrium. And yeah, I just let this guy burn in for a couple days, and I wanted to test the noise, as you know, right off the bat. But more importantly, wanted also to test it with Planars, dynamics, really hard to drive headphone, moderately hard to drive for a dynamic, I guess. And utilize all the options with the impedance inputs, the XLR and RCA inputs, and all that stuff. And as far as the noise is concerned, what I can definitely say about this amp is that the only time the noise seems to come into play at all is that you can even perceptively really hear it is on the high impedance switch if you go all the way to the right here, and then when you're going in through single-ended. Other thoughts, you know, it has gotten a little more liquid, a little more smooth through the first couple days. I do have the stock tubes still in the amp. I'm definitely going to start with trading out the 6SN7 tubes, and then obviously the 300Bs you can swap out. I may try to gather another pair or two. I don't know, the Takatsuki ones are so expensive. I've always held off those for years, but I don't know that I have two 300B amps with the Cayin and the Glen. I may be persuaded to splurge on a really expensive set of those tubes and see what the hype is all about. Amp really takes what you put into it and just gives it that slight coloration that 300Bs do, with, you know, kind of more of a profound kind of darkness and blackness to the background, with that kind of just heft to the sound and liquidity, but still no lack of extension or mid-range kind of transparency. It's the kind of sound I've only really heard from 300B amps, and you know, it's the kind of thing, either you love it or you don't. It really imparts like a heft and weight down low into the sub bass that really makes this kind of sound addicting, regardless of what kind of music you're listening to. And with acoustic music especially, I definitely find that it imparts kind of a weight to the sound. Like if someone's plucking a mandolin string or something that, you know, may under a different system, like a low impedance solid state system, not have a ton of weight to it just because of the kind of instrument it is, the 300B amp will just add in like that kind of like note density that makes you feel like you're a little closer to live musicians. You know, I can definitely hear that when I'm listening to stuff like a, you know, Chris Thile album or something like that. But yeah, anyways, those are some quick thoughts after a couple days. I'll definitely come back with any further thoughts, and throw in some design thoughts on this, you know, what I think of the amp. But so far, really good impressions, really happy that it's quiet with ZMFs, and really happy that it can drive anything from a Atrium all the way to a Susvara, which means that this amp can pretty much do it all. Alright, so just wanted to post a final update on this Cayin HA300B Mark II amp that I've had in for about 10-12 days now, and yeah, just kind of an update on how the amp's been burning in, what different tubes I've tried, what different headphones I've tried. So yeah, I'm mostly listening to right now the new album by the Black Keys, this Dropout Boogie album that just came out a couple days ago. Pretty great little album, and yeah, really enjoying that. Right now I've got it pumping through the Atriums here. Turn that down. So yeah, I got a little pile of tubes I've tried out and what I've got in it right now. You'll notice right now I have some 12AU7 tubes adapted to 6SN7, and then these Kosor mesh plate, I believe, 300B tubes that I bought off Amazon, but I think they're made by PS Vane or one of those companies. And yeah, overall, just the last few days, I've really been enjoying this combo, so I've left it in. The 12AU7 tubes have plenty of gain. I assume you could change over to 12AT7 or 12AX7 if you wanted more gain, but these have plenty of gain and about match the gain of a 6SN7 tube. Overall though, you know, I've used both these Gold Lion 300B tubes and the Kosor tubes. Overall, they both are great. They have a little bit of a different sound. The Gold Lions are probably a little more bombastic, a little more, heaviness, a little more, airiness up top. Whereas the Cosor tubes are probably a little more even-handed, maybe a touch more mid-forward. Very subtle changes. And so it's nice to have the two different types of 300B tubes, and who knows, maybe I'll splurge on one of those Takatsuki sets now that I have a couple 300B amps in the Glen in this too. Overall, as well, with the 6SN7 tubes, I tried these Coinbase RCAs. I tried these 1953 Bad Boy Sylvania 6SN7s, probably the most expensive pair I've tried. Then I also adapted these 6F8G tubes over to 6SN7s, and these worked quite well. These were pretty warm, so if you find yourself going and wanting a darker sound from these are a great tube. Actually, they're warmer than I thought they were going to be. I use these a ton in my Glen amps as input tubes, and also in my Felix Euphoria. They're some of my favorite 6SN7 adapter tubes. They're a little warmer in this amp than I might have suspected, probably because of the power difference of having a 300B tube and a transformer design versus using them mostly in OTL designs. That I've used them before. And then of course you have the stock tube. This is the one tube I would probably say, is probably worth upgrading from. Not a bad tube, but once you make an upgrade, that's probably the only upgrade I would say you should definitely make, whereas I don't see any need to change out these rectifier tubes. I don't see any need to change out the Gold Lions. 6S and 7 tubes, probably want to change those out. Overall, also, I tried them out, with anything between these Grado PS1000s with the ZMF adapter pads on them. If you feel like your Grados need some balls, need some girth to them, this 300B amp is gonna definitely lively up your Grados in the weight factor of how the sound really comes and grips you. So that was kind of fun to hear. And then going over and running the Susvaras, the 300B amp, I was going to about maybe 2-3 p.m. on the amp to get tons of power through these. Really weighty, punchy sound with still that ethereal, beautiful nature that the Susvaras have. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it, if you can run the Grados quietly and the Susvaras, that just kind of is a testament to how diverse this amp is. And of course, it runs any of the ZMFs really well. Is that medium and high, seem to be the sweet spots for the ZMF headphones. The low starts to get a little bit shouty, maybe a little bit on some tracks. It does give a cleaner kind of transient, but the sounds definitely has more life and more nuance to it on the medium and high. So medium and high both seem to work really well with ZMFs. And with the ZMFs, the volume knob I was probably maxing out at around 11 o'clock, if I'm really, have a track that I want to pump up a little bit, but usually listening around 10, 10:30, somewhere in there. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, do burn this amp in too. I did find some burn in, some kind of easing of the sound. Both, I think it does have something with the tubes because I had 2 sets of Gold Lions that I used, and the more burned-in set did sound easier. Overall, extremely happy with owning one of these and being able to carry them and pass them on to ZMF owners. It's just really exciting to hear a, I guess, semi-affordable 300B amp that we can offer our customers and give that classic sound that I think just sounds so awesome with so many different types of headphones, but of course, especially the ZMFs. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. And yeah, we'll keep doing more comparisons and listening to this 300B Cayin amp.